Today on the newscast, will Israel be forced to strike first in a coming war with Iran's proxies? Plus, Biden and Bibi finally set to meet in the United States. Get all the breaking details next. Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast. We just passed the 17-year anniversary of the outbreak of the Second Lebanon War, pitting Israel against the Iran-backed terror group Hezbollah, which controls southern Lebanon now even more than it did 17 years ago with an iron fist. Well, that border has largely been quiet over the past 17 years, but in recent months, it has been heating up, and folks, tensions are very high right now between Israel and Hezbollah. Remember, Hezbollah is Iran's most lethal proxy, armed with some 150,000, if not more, rockets and missiles pointed at every inch of the world's one and only Jewish state. And by the way, an increasing amount of those missiles are precision guided. Not only that, Hezbollah has tens of thousands of well-trained, well-armed foot soldiers, and according to Hezbollah leader Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah, in a future engagement with the Israel Defense Forces, Hezbollah will look to cross the border into northern Israel and seize towns inside Israel. All that to say, this is obviously a grave threat for Israel. It's unsustainable in the long term, which brings us to the question that I'm going to pose on today's newscast. Will Israel be forced eventually, perhaps sooner rather than later, to act preemptively against Hezbollah and, by extension, Iran's other proxies, which are perched on Israel's borders on all sides? We call it here in the newscast the ring of fire that surrounds Israel, whether it's, of course, Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad to the south in Gaza, further south even in Yemen, we've got the Houthis. Then to the east, we have those Iranian-backed Shia militias in Iraq, and of course Syria to the north as well. As you can see, Israel quite literally surrounded, and oh, by the way, the West Bank, which we call Judea and Samaria, the biblical heartland here in the newscast, has also become an Iran-backed terror hub, in particular in recent months. Add all that up, and it is, in my view, an untenable situation for Israel. And now, after 17 years, again, all of a sudden, the northern border over the past few months has certainly been heating up. What will Israel do? I'm going to lay out two potential scenarios for you. Also, on yesterday's newscast, we talked about the planned phone call that Joe Biden was going to make to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. That call was scheduled for yesterday, Monday, July 17th, and it did happen. And apparently now, Bibi and Biden will meet in the United States this coming fall. We've got more details there. Before we get into it, quick reminder just to subscribe to the Watchman News channel right here on YouTube and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. By the way, we've now got the Watchman shop by popular demand. Just a quick mention there. Go to shop.tbn.org/Watchman to check out the new Watchman merch that we've got just in time for summer. Some cool stuff there and a cool way to show your support for the channel. Okay, let's get into this and let's break it down. Two scenarios where Israel may be forced to act preemptively against Iran's proxies, in particular Hezbollah. Now, let me preface this by saying this scenario, both of them, are being discussed more and more inside Israeli military circles. They're saying, hey, look, we know it's a question not of if, but when we will have to go toe-to-toe with Hezbollah. I've called it here in the newscast the Great Northern War. I believe Israel eventually will have no choice but to face off with Hezbollah and the Iranian regime and their various allies, jihadi allies in Lebanon and Syria. The action will begin in the north, and that will see the bulk of the fighting. But I truly believe that Hamas and Islamic Jihad, and perhaps even the Houthis in Yemen, will throw their hats in the ring as well and ignite that entire ring of fire that surrounds Israel. But folks, for certain, the bulk of the most fierce fighting, I believe, will be to the north, quite simply because Hezbollah is a lethal fighting force. Yes, Hezbollah is not a nation state, but it is the most powerful fighting force by far in Lebanon, number one. And number two, it has the full backing and support of a nation state, the world's number one state sponsor of terrorism, Iran. Hezbollah, you could say, is not a terrorist organization, which is bad enough. It's a terrorist paramilitary organization, one of the most powerful fighting forces in the entire Middle East, although it is not, again, a nation state. All that to say, in recent months, we've had rockets launched from southern Lebanon. Now, Hezbollah maintains plausible, I call it implausible deniability, although it controls southern Lebanon. Its watchful eye is on everything that goes on there along the Israel border. Hezbollah says, hey, we didn't do it, but Hezbollah allows groups like Hamas to operate in southern Lebanon as well and launch rockets into Israel. We had a Hezbollah operative plant a powerful bomb in northern Israel back in March. Thankfully, that was not a mass casualty event, but that was certainly the intent of Hezbollah. We've had several incidents over the past few weeks of Hezbollah members crossing into Israeli territory from Lebanon, and what could be the trigger for a larger conflict. I know it might sound wild to some. Hezbollah has set up shop on Israeli territory in the shadow of Mount Dov over the past few weeks. Hezbollah has set up 2 tents where at least 10 Hezbollah members have, again, set up shop on Israeli territory. Now, reportedly, one of the tents was removed, but one of them is still standing, and Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah, the Hezbollah leader, is saying that tent's not going anywhere. And as we reported here in the newscast, he said a few days ago that if Israel dares act against this Hezbollah tent on Israeli territory, then Hezbollah will attack Israel. So folks, what seems like on the surface, well, it's just a tent, could literally explode into a much larger conflict. We like to say here in the newscast, in today's Middle East, you can expect the unexpected, and what is seemingly a minor incident could blow up into a full-blown war. That is not an exaggeration. It is that much of a tinderbox right now on the Israel-Lebanon border, and the slightest spark could ignite an inferno. Could this tent be the trigger? Because, folks, at the end of the day, Israel says, look, we cannot allow an entity that is devoted to our destruction to set up shop on Israeli territory. They can't allow this tent much longer. Now, Israel has been relying on the UN thus far to attempt to broker something. The UN and the U.S. ambassador to Lebanon both working here and working with the Lebanese government, working with the Israeli government, trying to come to some sort of resolution as a mediator. But Hezbollah right now seems dug in terms of not moving this tent. If you are Israel right now, you are preparing for the eventuality of a larger conflict with Hezbollah, and you're going into this knowing if we act against this tent, it could cause a major regional war. I know, again, it sounds crazy, but that is the state of play in today's Middle East. So if you are Israel, and I'd love to hear your comments, leave them in the comments section, and I'll go through them all. I really want to hear what you think. If you're Israel, and you've got this situation on your northern border with Hezbollah, again, arming itself to the teeth, I mean, light years since that last war 17 years ago in 2006, where Hezbollah is now militarily and its capacities to harm the nation of Israel. I laid out their capabilities a bit earlier in this newscast. If you are Israel, do you wait, or do you eventually say, you know what, we have to stop this now and act preemptively to decisively crush this Hezbollah threat, which is an existential threat. I don't say that lightly, folks. Look, Hezbollah can bombard Israel with thousands of rockets per hour, and now the precision-guided munitions, which could target a major Israeli infrastructure, Ben Gurion Airport, even the Dimona nuclear reactor down south in the Negev desert. So very nasty possibilities, I can say that Israel has been preparing, and we've detailed this on the newscast many times, for a multi-front war. They know it's not just going to be a war to the north. It will involve multiple fronts as that ring of fire ignites. What do you think? Should Israel act? Second scenario, real quick before we go. Again, a question we say if and when. It's probably when, at this point, Israel has to strike Iran's nuclear facilities. We don't know when. Maybe it's 2 years from now, a year from now. We have no idea. But again, it's an existential threat that's gathering that Israel cannot live with, just as it cannot live with Hezbollah perched on its northern border forever, because eventually Hezbollah will get the green light from its Iranian masters to activate and to launch against Israel. So when it comes to Iran's nuclear program, similar situation. Israel can't sit around forever and wait for this threat to get to a point where it's a point of no return. Israel's not going to allow that. By no means, under any scenario, will Israel allow Iran to acquire the bomb, which brings up the question real quick. And again, I want to hear your thoughts on this. In that scenario, knowing that when Israel strikes Iran's nuclear facilities, that would be the time, no doubt, that Iran would activate Hezbollah, which has mostly lied dormant, not dormant, very active, but been silent on the northern border until recently for the past 17 years. Again, is that the moment where the Iranian regime gives the green light and fully activates Hezbollah, and we see that great northern war? With that in mind, does Israel, if it strikes Iran's nuclear facilities, preemptively strike Hezbollah to the north to neutralize that threat? Before we go, a quick mention. Yes, Biden and Bibi did have a long, reportedly, conversation yesterday, and Biden invited Prime Minister Netanyahu finally to meet with him in the United States. Now, the official White House printout of their call did not mention that. Surprise, surprise. But a White House spokesman said afterwards that yes, they will meet sometime in the fall. Now, could that be at the UN General Assembly in September when a lot of world leaders attend and they get together and meet? Perhaps. It didn't say anything about a White House visit for Bibi, but the two leaders will reportedly meet in the fall here in the United States. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that as well. Pretty, to me, alarming, to say the least. That's being kind, that the Biden administration has yet to invite the leader of Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, for an official White House visit. We'll talk more about that throughout the week. And we talk about the when, not if, scenario of Israel striking Iran's nuclear facilities in particular. How does this current administration in D.C. react to that? Is Israel truly alone, but not always alone and not ever alone, because the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, neither slumbers nor sleeps. Hey, thanks so much for joining us here on the Watchman Newscast. Until next time, God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.